This is an elite high school where grades don't matter, only wealth and connections can get you in. The students here, born with silver spoons in their mouths, don't carry school bags but limited edition luxury items worth millions of won. When they're in a good mood, they rent out entire restaurants. If a luxury toy has a long wait time, they don't even bother checking the price. Spending 6 million won on a substitute is nothing to them. On this particular day, Kdrama was reported for bullying a low-income student who got in through an equal opportunity admission system. The school decided to form an anti-bullying committee to investigate, but she couldn't care less. Before the teacher even finished speaking, the door was thrown open. A flood of students rushed into the office, all eager to take the blame on Kdrama. For a moment, even the school leadership was at a loss. Meanwhile, Kim Hye-in, a transfer student born without privilege, was looked down upon by the wealthy elite. She came to this school to see for herself just how different these aristocrats, who never earned a cent with their own hands, really are. The story begins 3 months earlier. Hye-in, who was attending a regular high school, got on a bus after school to go tutor. On the ride, people were discussing their opinions of Damme International High. The comment section was full of envy and desire to study there. Soon she arrived at the home of the student she was tutoring. The villa was spacious and full of luxurious decor, surprising Hye-in. She had been pretending to be a university student, her good friend, to earn some extra cash for her family during her spare time. The lady of the house quickly noticed from Hye-in's clothes that she wasn't well off. When Hye-in reached for a snack, the woman made a snide remark, saying if she hadn't come to their home, she wouldn't even get to eat something like that. That evening during self-study, Hye-in accidentally bled onto her notebook. Before she could clean it, a classmate came to tell her the homeroom teacher was calling her. She found out the financial aid originally allocated to her was now given to a student in even worse circumstances. Even the grant for a language immersion program abroad was cancelled. When her classmates asked about it, Hye-in simply said she didn't want to go, it wouldn't help her anyway. But in truth, she had already written her application and desperately wanted to go. However, the exorbitant cost of 3.5 million won forced her to give up. The next day, the student she was tutoring was admiring her new handbag. But to Hye-in, it looked identical to the one on the floor. When she saw the price tag, 5 million won, she was shocked. She couldn't understand why a student would need such an expensive bag. If it were her, she'd never waste money like that. The student noticed her reaction, and with a flick of her eyes, casually offered to give a free one to the teacher. Hye-in thought, even reselling it secondhand would fetch 3 to 4 million won. Need it? They even mocked her for being poor. That night, Hye-in was deeply discouraged. Was life really so unfair? She used to believe that as long as she worked hard, life would reward her eventually, even if it was tough. But now it all seemed meaningless. A friend tried to comfort her, saying, "This world has many filthy, despicable corners. They've just yet to be exposed." The next day during tutoring, Hye-in took advantage of a moment when no one was around and tried on the 5 million won bag. She couldn't see what was so special about it. So, she took a few photos in front of a full-length mirror, intending to post them on social media and ask what people found so attractive about it. But before she could finish editing the post, she heard the student returning and hurriedly put the bag back in place, slipping her phone into her fabric tote bag, unaware this small act would cause her big trouble. It turned out that the other students had heard Hye-in's tuition for the language program came from government subsidies for low-income families. Out of some misplaced sense of superiority, they felt ashamed to be associated with her. They even accused her of making excuses and being shameless. At that moment, Hye-in rushed into the restroom. She had accidentally posted a photo of herself wearing the 5 million won bag on social media. Her classmates were envious, and the post quickly went viral. Then, the 2 classmates who'd been mocking her began pressing her for an explanation, looking as if they were just waiting to see her embarrassed. At Korea's top elite high school, Kdrama was furious about being reported to the school committee and forced a group of innocent students to jump into a swimming pool and drink the water to uncover the whistleblower. To her, being reported wasn't the problem, being poor was the real crime. As the only daughter of a conglomerate owner, Kdrama had so much power that even if she slept through class, no one dared to wake her. The homeroom teacher, fed up, had to personally rouse the third-generation chaebol heir. The teacher believed that attitude was more important than grades, and although all the students came from powerful families, they were still expected to maintain a minimum level of respect. But Kdrama merely shot her a cold glance and flawlessly recited the passage the teacher had just explained, then promptly laid her head down and went back to sleep. Meanwhile, ever since Hyein started pretending to be a wealthy second-generation student, she attracted more and more admirers. Driven by vanity, she started arriving early for tutoring sessions, trying on the students' luxury clothes, and taking photos in their room to post online. Naturally, her fans were curious. Why didn't she wear those branded clothes to school? So Hyein borrowed a story her friend had told her and made it her own. But then came the real problem. How could someone working part-time afford luxury goods? She explained that she didn't want to show off what her parents had bought her, since expensive things are easy to lose. Her fangirls suggested she post more content online. If she could hit 10,000 followers, she could start getting sponsorship deals and earn 3 to 4 million won a month from ads alone. That caught Hyen's interest. But it was hard to grow a large following with just outfit photos. So she began doing something more secretive. Under the pretense of curiosity, she began snooping around during tutoring. The housekeeper didn't suspect a thing and just told her to leave quickly. Then Hyein spotted something hanging in the closet, a custom school uniform from Damme High School. It was the perfect attention grabber she needed. A quick note, Damme High's uniforms are made of luxury materials and tailored by hand. The student's mother had reserved it at a high-end boutique a year in advance, showing how valuable it was. But Hyein secretly took the uniform to the student's room. Although it didn't fit perfectly, she still took some flattering photos wearing it. Then she posted a status update jokingly suggesting, "Should I just transfer to Damme High?" But once the post went live, reality quickly set back in. Everything around her still belonged to someone else. Just then, Nayeon came home. She'd heard her school uniform had arrived and was eager to try it on. Meanwhile, Hyein struggled to take it off in time. Nayeon searched the room but couldn't find it. As she was about to leave, she suddenly heard the sound of a notification. She picked up the phone and saw a flood of comments praising Hyen's wealth and status. Curious, because she didn't recognize the name, Nayeon tapped into the profile. What she saw shocked her. Hyein was her own tutor, and all the photos were taken inside her room. The truth now exposed, Hyein stopped hiding. She explained everything and pleaded with Nayeon not to tell her mother, appealing to the bond they'd built over time. Nayeon agreed, but on one condition. As compensation for her wrongdoing, Hyein had to do Nayeon's homework, be her shopping assistant, and basically act as her personal servant. Over time, the workload grew heavier. Not only did she have to complete Nayeon's assignments, but also those of her classmates. One day, as Hyein was busy preparing for her midterm exams, Nayeon called. She had left her speech for the Damme High School interview at home. Coincidentally, her parents were away on a business trip, the housekeeper was off, and the driver didn't know where the document was. So, Nayeon ordered Hyein to bring it to her. She even threatened, saying if she didn't, she'd tell her mother everything. The exam was incredibly important to Hyein. But if she didn't deliver the speech, Nayeon could expose her, and that might even land her in jail. Hyein decided to give up the test and deliver the speech instead. But this whole thing was just a cruel game. Nayeon wanted to show off to her classmates that she had a servant at her beck and call, a high school student willing to sabotage her own future for someone else. Panting and out of breath, Hyein finally arrived. Nayeon, unfazed, casually suggested her mom should pay Hyein extra for the effort, then tossed the urgently needed speech into the trash like it meant nothing. Giving up that test meant giving up her guaranteed spot at university. The teacher's scolding and Nayeon's mockery rang in Hyen's ears until she broke down in tears. In this school, there was no such thing as fairness. A boy who reported a bully was expelled. Even more horrifying, a bullied student was pushed off a building to their death. Every single one of them came from low-income families. Kdrama never actually found out who reported her, so she took out her anger on a boy who talked back. As he was about to leave, Hyein stopped him. "Why didn't you explain it wasn't you who reported her to the school committee?" she asked. He replied that explaining wouldn't have changed anything. After he left, Hai-in received a callback from the school. Even though she had submitted plenty of evidence, no disciplinary action was taken against the bully. Before the call even ended, Hai-in hung up. For a brief moment, she began to doubt herself. Maybe Baek Ji-na was right. Maybe being born poor really was the biggest sin. The next day, Hai-in ripped off the mocking sticker someone had slapped on the girl's back. Storming out of the restroom, on the way, she bumped into someone Ji-na. She thought, this woman must be crazy. Turning her head, she saw the woman carrying a huge bucket of water, heading straight to the information desk to ask where the admissions interviews were being held. The volunteer on duty was visibly stunned by this dramatic scene, but without thinking too much, he gave her directions. Meanwhile, Nayeon, soaked from head to toe, was shouting at the top of her lungs, threatening to report Hai-in's forged documents. "You're insane. You're truly insane," she shrieked over and over. "Where did this girl even come from? You're a lunatic." Hai-in smoothed her messy hair, not yet fully aware of the gravity of the situation. The school administrator had to step in, stopping Nayeon's mother and warning her that things had already gotten completely out of hand. If the shouting didn't stop immediately, they would both be asked to leave the premises. Still trying to defend her daughter, Nayeon's mother insisted she was the true victim. But the school leader wasn't having it. He firmly declared that Cheongdam International High School had zero tolerance for such public spectacles. Everything that happened today would directly impact Nayeon's admission, and frankly, it was now almost impossible. Hearing this, Nayeon's mother turned to Hai-in and threatened, "I'll get a lawyer. I'll ruin your life with every means possible." News quickly reached Hai-in's current school. She had faked her academic background, claiming to be a university student. That counted as fraud. On top of that, the Nayeon family made multiple calls, over a dozen a day, protesting to both the school and the education board. If this blew up in public, expulsion would be inevitable. Her homeroom teacher suggested that Hai-in go apologize in person or even beg for forgiveness. Soon, rumors that she had been pretending to be a rich second generation spread across the school. As the saying goes, when a tree falls, everyone gives it a push. Now, students openly talked behind her back. Meanwhile, a couple who had recently been accepted to Cheongdam High School through family connections saw a social media post of Hai-in wearing the school uniform. But they had never seen her on campus. The post didn't give off the aura of someone from a wealthy background. The guy commented, "She might be faking her identity." This remark was overheard by Baek Ji-na, who had just walked in. She took the phone and examined the photo carefully. Something about it felt off. Just as she was putting the pieces together, the account was deleted. At the same time, the whole fake rich girl story became a hot topic for gossip. Hai-in quickly became known as the imposter. Just then, she received a message from Nayeon. She was going to report everyone, even the friend who had lent Hai-in a student ID. Enraged, Hai-in grabbed her bag and tried to leave, but a classmate stopped her. Right up to that moment, she felt like she was being watched, like a prisoner under surveillance. She had lost all motivation. Still, she made one last plea, hoping the school administrator could view this as an act of mercy, saving a pitiful student from total ruin. But the school leader coldly asked, "And what's in it for me, saving a pitiful student?" Even though Hai-in was fighting back tears, her request was denied. The implication was clear. Letting someone like Nayeon in would damage the school's image, regardless of the circumstances. "Yes, you might be able to make tens of millions of won," the school leader said, "but a smart person should know how to weigh gains and losses. If you earn a little money at the cost of causing such a scandal on the day of entrance interviews, in front of so many influential parents, who would ever want to send their children to Cheongdam International High School again?" He advised Hai-in to treat this as a life lesson, one that no matter how hard she tried, she could never undo. That's what would make it valuable. With that, he signaled the security guard to escort her out. On her way out, Hai-in stopped by the first-floor girls' restroom. Upset and overwhelmed, she started crying. Her sobbing startled a tall figure hiding in one of the stalls, sneaking chocolate. He had been hiding for quite a while and, seeing she wasn't leaving, tried to sneak out quietly. Panicking, the tall guy explained that he was just a regular chocolate eater and that girls at the school never used the first-floor restroom, because last year, a girl gave birth in it. Once they calmed down, the two realized they'd seen each other before, at the info desk that day. Soon after, Hye-in left Cheongdam High. But later that evening, she snuck back. It turned out that she and the tall guy had made a plan. She would try to ambush the school leader and beg for another chance, while he would sneak more chocolate during the distraction. After getting some intel from him, Hye-in waited by the parking lot. Unfortunately, the school leader left in a different car. Oblivious to this, Hye-in drifted off and fell asleep. When she woke up, it was already past 2 a.m. She walked toward the car, curious. Suddenly, she turned around and saw a girl lying motionless nearby. It was Hye-in. Looking up, Hye-in noticed someone else on the rooftop, watching silently from above. In that moment, she became the only witness to the incident. A student had fallen on campus. But instead of investigating or offering help, the first thing the school leadership did was order the deletion of the security footage. Since Hye-in was a special admissions student from a low-income family, they fabricated a story. She took her own life due to academic pressure. In South Korea, such student suicides are sadly not uncommon. Though Hye-in saw everything, she was still just a student, and the trauma left her disoriented and stammering. But one thing she was sure of, someone else had been on the rooftop that night. The next morning, Hye-in returned home only to find Na-yeon's mother waiting at her door. Surprisingly, she didn't come to press charges. Instead, she brought Hye-in a gift. Apparently, Na-yeon's mom misunderstood. Because her daughter was somehow accepted to the school after Hye-in had spoken to the school leader, she assumed they were on very good terms. She now begged Hye-in to put in a few good words to the school leadership. Hye-in was completely confused. She didn't know what was going on. Back in her room, she plugged in her phone and found a strange message. The content was word for word what she had told the school leader the day before. Nervously, she called the number back, but what was said during that call is unknown. Meanwhile, a boy who had been expelled visited Hye-in in the hospital. From her mother, he learned that Hye-in was still alive. And yet, the school had already announced she had taken her own life because of school pressure. Back on campus, one boy kept staring at the place where Hye-in had fallen, clearly burdened by something. The tall guy, on the other hand, was busy explaining the school's hidden hierarchy to new students. In the school's main hall was a donor wall, which ranked families by how much they had donated. Kids of wealthy donors often bullied low-income scholarship students. But there was one exception. Baek Ji-na, ranked number 1, absolutely detested this kind of behavior. Ironically, the girl who was bullying others. Her family had only donated a single one. Meanwhile, Hye-in, no longer feeling humiliated or depressed like before, confidently returned to her classroom to pack up her things. Just then, a new girl showed up, possibly the most righteous person in the entire school. She openly admitted that her family was also poor, but she wasn't ashamed of her background in the slightest. Not long after Hye-in left, the gossip mill began. It turned out, she had transferred into Cheongdam International High School. The whole school was stunned. But Hye-in walked out with pride and confidence, head held high. That very evening, she quit her part-time job at the convenience store, feeling that such a job no longer suited her new student identity. She even told her friends about the transfer. Apparently, Principal Yunma had offered her a generous support package. Tuition fully covered throughout university, a chance to study abroad every semester, all expenses paid. She saw this as a once-in-a-lifetime chance to change her fate. However, her friends didn't quite agree. "Girl, you and that rich school have nothing in common. That's so-called golden opportunity. You better find out the catch." Hye-in's eyes flickered uncomfortably. She explained that she had only gotten in because of an extra quota for low-income applicants. Then, as if to change the subject, she invited her friend to go eat Korean barbecue. The next morning, the school personally delivered a custom Cheongdam school uniform to her. Putting it on, Hye-in couldn't have looked happier. This uniform felt like a golden ticket. She even noticed that employees at luxury stores, who'd normally ignore her, were suddenly being polite. One salesperson even helped her pick out a handbag. She bought it for 1.45 million won, but there was a strange detail. Hye-in kept feeling like someone was following her. Every time she looked back, there was nothing, so she brushed it off. After a bit more shopping, she bumped into a woman wearing a bucket hat. The woman quickly apologized and walked away. Hye-in headed to the restroom to wipe her bag and check if her new shoes got wet. That's when she discovered a note inside her shopping bag. The message read, "A school uniform bought at the price of someone's death really suits you." It sent chills down her spine. She realized it must have been that woman in the bucket hat who slipped it in. Freaking out, Hye-in ran out of the restroom. Completely forgetting her expensive shoes, she rushed to the main hall, unaware that the woman was still watching her from a distance. Suddenly remembering the shoes, she turned back in a panic. But when she returned, the bag was gone. Right then, someone walked in wearing the same pair of shoes. It was Baek Ji-na. Thinking Ji-na had stolen them, Hye-in confronted her. "Hey, that's mine." But Ji-na coldly dismissed her. She noticed Hye-in's school uniform and said, "Figure out your place. I'm in a bad mood today, so I'll let this slide." Then she wiped her hands with a tissue and threw it in Hye-in's face. That was the last straw. Hye-in snapped, grabbed Ji-na's hair, and shouted, "Let's see how tough you really are. Time for someone to teach you how to act like a human being." The two girls got into a fight right there in the restroom. Hye-in won and forcefully yanked the shoes off of Ji-na. Holding the shoes, Hye-in returned to the luxury store, trying to negotiate a refund. But the sales clerk refused, citing strict brand policies. "We don't accept returns for used." So that night, Hye-in had no choice but to wrap the shoes in a plastic bag and take them home. Meanwhile, Ji-na walked home barefoot, her pride shattered. The next day, Hye-in, now wearing the shoes she fought for, finally stepped into her dream school. The first time she came here, she was completely mesmerized. She used to think she'd had a decent life, but now she realized just how narrow her world had been, like a frog at the bottom of a well. Meanwhile, in the school lounge, Lianin and her boyfriend were hanging out. Suddenly, Baek Ji-na stormed in. "No apologies. I won't let people in this school just be happy every day. Especially when they're all chummy with the school board." At that moment, Hye-in had just finished her registration. She happened to run into Yengure in the office. She didn't have a great impression of him and planned to walk away quietly. But Yengure suddenly grabbed her hand. Just then, Daoji also reached out and held onto her. Yengue sneered at him. "You think just because you're the heir to the Damme group, you're some kind of white horse prince. Hye-in isn't from our world." What no one expected was this. Hye-in didn't resist. She just left, hand in hand. The two, Hye-in and Daoji, walked to the schoolyard, where they exchanged numbers. As Hye-in turned and headed toward the school building, she accidentally collided with a girl in a designer outfit. The moment felt strangely familiar, but before she could dwell on it, she realized that everyone around her was avoiding her. When Hye-in opened her locker, she was shocked stiff. Inside was a pair of the same branded shoes, neatly packaged. But she was already wearing her pair. Where did these come from? She slammed the locker shut and rushed to class. But just as she reached the classroom door, someone tripped her. She fell hard. The class didn't flinch. A pudgy student checked a photo carefully. "That's her. That's the girl we're looking for." Everyone was curious. Why is the school's queen bee, Baek Ji-na, so mad about a broke and unattractive transfer student? By some miracle? Or maybe because the bullies went easy, Hye-in managed to escape the classroom. She ran straight to Principal Su's office, barging in and demanding answers. "You knew this would happen, didn't you? Is that why you let me in?" Old Su didn't deny it. He actually laughed in exasperation. Then he asked her, "Do you even know why you got in?" The day she received that call, Old Su offered Hye-in a once-in-a-lifetime choice. When the police ask, say you didn't see the killer. In exchange, she'd be admitted to Damme High as a special scholarship student from a low-income background. Now, Old Su suggested, maybe you should just transfer back to your old school, but Hye-in refused. All she asked was that they properly manage the school's corruption. Old Su gave her one more choice. You can walk away or use this opportunity to force your way into the elite. Will you climb up, or go back to that dim, hopeless life? My guess? Hye-in chose to stay. She grabbed the shoes and threw them out the window. Right outside stood Baek Ji-na. It had all been part of Ji-na's revenge plan. Suddenly, from all directions, students began surrounding them. Hye-in wanted to run, but Ji-na grabbed her hard. Then it clicked. Hye-in remembered where she'd seen that name, Baek Ji-na. Back when she worked at the convenience store, she'd read a magazine article. The most influential teenager in Korea today, not a celebrity, not a YouTuber, but the only daughter of the Hanmin group, Baek Ji-na. Now, the transfer student who once dreamed of a better future was being backed into a corner by one of Korea's most powerful teens. At the start, Hye-in threw out her phone in an attempt to expose the students for bullying. But instead of being afraid, they all laughed. Turns out, just moments earlier, Hye-in had used her head to headbutt Baek Ji-na, then ran for her life while everyone was distracted. Whether because she didn't know the school layout or was just panicked, she ended up in a dead-end hallway. Just as she was overwhelmed with despair, a mysterious figure appeared. It was Seun, the girl dressed in high-end fashion. She noticed Hye-in was barefoot, so she pulled out a dirty white pair of shoes from her locker for her to wear. Turns out, Seun had done some research on Hye-in through the school intranet. She began explaining the hierarchy of Cheongdam High, with Baek Ji-na sitting at the very top like a queen, and her followers forming the notorious Diamond Club, a group no one dared to defy. Seun also revealed, even if you don't mess with Baek Ji-na, as long as you're a low-income scholarship student, you'll get bullied by these people. This filled Hye-in with a sense of hopelessness. But Seun seemed like the first normal person she'd met at school. Then Hye-in remembered, there was one other person who seemed decent, Hae-ji. She decided to go look for him. But as she left, Seun's expression changed, subtle and hard to read. Meanwhile, many students were frantically searching for Hye-in, hoping to get on Baek Ji-na's good side. Hye-in hid in a corner and sent a desperate message to Hae-ji asking for help. But soon she was found and cornered in a hallway. This brings us back to the opening scene. With the bullies closing in, Hye-in suddenly jumped from the second floor. Just when it seemed like disaster was certain, Hae-ji appeared and caught her mid-fall. He even gently placed a bandage on her injured head. The other students were stunned. Why is Hae-ji, the principal's son, helping a poor scholarship girl? Word spread fast. Baek Ji-na soon heard the news and felt a surge of jealousy. Hae-ji never cared about anyone before. At that moment, Baek Ji-na was attending the monthly family dinner, a formal event she was already annoyed by, especially since her teacher also showed up uninvited. She didn't want to eat with irrelevant outsiders. Then came a bombshell. The teacher, holding Baek Ji-na's father's arm, announced that she was pregnant, already 12 weeks along. She pretended to be gentle but made it clear, this dinner was arranged because soon we'll be a family. Baek Ji-na stormed out without a word, slamming the door. Back to Hae-ji. He appeared to be especially concerned for Hye-in. But he explained, I'm the son of the principal. Helping her is just my responsibility. Yet, as he said this, he was carefully bandaging her wound. This touched Hye-in deeply. Hye-in had never liked those poor girl marries prince fairy tales. She just wanted to be rich. But now she realized if you marry the prince, you automatically become rich. Actually, Hae-ji was trying to figure out who was behind the incident that harmed his sister, Hye-rin. He suspected that Hye-in had seen the real culprit that night. The next morning, Hye-in, who had been bullied by everyone just the day before, was now stepping out of Hae-ji's car, holding his hand. Their intimacy shocked the entire school. And Hye-in loved it. Her posture, her walk, everything had changed. Soon, 3 students confronted her. Are you really dating Hae-ji? Hye-in didn't hesitate. Yes. Flashback. The night before, she had realized that Hae-ji wasn't interested in her. Hae-ji noticed the same hair tie on Hye-in's wrist, the exact one his sister wore the night of the incident. This confirmed that Hye-in approached him with a motive from the start. So Hae-ji confronted her directly. I overheard your phone call with your father. Just tell me, who was the real killer? But Hye-in didn't answer immediately. Instead, she proposed a deal. It's heavily implied she demanded they pretend to be a couple. When Hye-in returned to class, Those 3 classmates who had previously harassed her suddenly changed their attitude, all smiles and friendliness. They even proposed they get along. Turns out, Haiji's family is also part of the elite diamond club. And now that Haiyan was dating him, they didn't want to make enemies, because in this world is everything. Haiyan agreed. No need to make unnecessary enemies. Then, the girl with black hair invited her to attend a Friday networking party. But this wasn't just any gathering. It was an exclusive social mixer only for students from the top 1% families with verified assets, the right connections and status, membership in Cheongdam's elite society. Haiyan was confused. Why are you inviting someone like me? A poor scholarship kid could never get in. But the girl explained, you're dating Haiji, a top-tier Diamond Club member. That alone gives you privilege. Haiyan told her friend about the invite. Her friend encouraged her to go. This might be your one shot. Still, Haiyan felt insecure about her background. She didn't even have a proper dress for the event. To borrow a gown, she was asked to write a detailed post-party report, keep the dress clean and return it. She even offered to pay, but was told, forget the money. Just return the dress clean. After all, this kind of dress, costing tens of millions of won, the day of the party came. The level of luxury stunned Haiyan. It was beyond anything she imagined. She picked up a glass of wine to calm her nerves, when suddenly, a hand appeared in front of her. Haiyan didn't think much of it, just smiled and stood up. Then came the storm. Baek Ji-na, dressed like a black swan, appeared on the scene. Without hesitation, she shoved Haiyan, causing the wine to spill all over her borrowed dress. Only then did Haiyan realize this party was a trap all along. This time, the wine splashed directly onto her gown. It was public humiliation, calculated and cold. After drenching her in red wine, Baek Ji-na sneered and warned Haiyan, don't think dating Do-ha will turn you into a phoenix. Someone like you, no matter how many times you're reborn, will always be nothing more than a lowly commoner. Haiyan was devastated. She didn't understand, she hadn't done anything wrong. So why were the security guards dragging her out? The law student nearby couldn't stay silent. Right and wrong don't matter here. This entire building belongs to Baek Ji-na's family. At that, Haiyan finally understood. She noticed the security guards' badges. So she stopped resisting and quietly let them take her away. After the party, scandal breaks. A high-ranking executive from the judiciary group had a secret love affair, which might jeopardize the group's inheritance plan. That executive? Baek Ji-na's father. Turns out a teacher was pregnant, and if the baby turned out to be a boy, he could legitimately compete for inheritance rights. Ji-na's mother, often drunk and deeply depressed, had already known about the affair. But rather than feel betrayed, she felt relieved. Finally, a way out of her loveless marriage. Haiyan's financial desperation. The next morning, Haiyan lied to her family, claiming the school suddenly required 8 million won for fees. Her brother exploded in anger. Dad only makes 2 million a month. Who do you think you are, enrolling in Cheongdam International High School? You're just pretending to be someone you're not. But they didn't know. This money was to pay for the ruined dress from the party. The dress's owner gave her 1 month to repay it, or else she'd report it to her mother. From a rich kid's perspective, it was just a dress. But for Haiyan, it was enough to ruin her entire life. Meanwhile, Ji-na was gloating with her friends. Turns out, the borrowed dress was part of their trap. Do-ha confronts Ji-na. Do-ha arrived, furious. What you did to Haiyan last night was disgusting. Ji-na misunderstood, thinking Do-ha and Haiyan were serious. And when she realized Do-ha had feelings for Haiyan, she laughed bitterly. You think you can date her? Try again in your next life. Even if you weren't rich, would you still be interested in her? To Ji-na, Haiyan was just a social climber, using Do-ha to gain access to high society. Everyone in the Diamond Club had seen it. Later that day, classmates avoided her in the halls. She found a sticky note on her back, stinky scholarship student. As she turned a corner, she bumped into Baek Ji-na again. And this time, Haiyan pushed back. You all act like I'm beneath you, but you waste your time and energy following me every day. That just proves I must matter. After enduring multiple humiliations, Hyen tried to de-escalate the situation by proposing peace. "Let's not interfere with each other anymore," she said calmly. "I'll treat you like I'm invisible. Can we just go to school without trouble?" But Baek Ji-na scoffed at the idea. "If you're going to act like you're invisible," she snapped, "then why don't you just drop out altogether?" Of course, it wouldn't be that easy. Ji-na made it clear that even disappearing came at a cost. She laid out a condition. Hyen had 1 week to voluntarily withdraw from school. The price of that withdrawal would be based on a dress Hyen could never afford. The faster she left, the more money she'd receive as a reward. Ji-na's twisted way of sweetening the deal. "After all," she added mockingly, "time is money." With 6 days left on the countdown, Hae-shik found Hyen. He couldn't understand why she kept showing up in places where she clearly didn't belong. But he wasn't just angry, he was desperate. He wanted to know who killed Hyen, his closest friend. To his surprise, Hyen responded with her own demand. "Lend me some money," she said coolly. "Then maybe I'll consider telling you." Frustrated, she added, "My life is full of resentment right now." Hae-shik, losing patience, retorted, "Sure, your name sounds like Hyen's. But that's all you two have in common." She never asked for anything. She never begged. Before walking off, he muttered, "That's it? I'm done here." In truth, Hyen never intended to tell him the truth. Not only had she signed a non-disclosure agreement with the school, but she also hadn't even seen the attacker's face, just the shadow of a woman. Still, she fired back, "You couldn't even protect the girl you liked." With 5 days left, someone insisted on buying Hyen lunch. "My grandmother always told me," the girl said, "if you ignore reality, you're either a villain or a fool." But darker things were happening behind the scenes. A high school girl, drowning in debt, was posing for increasingly revealing photos. Soon, she began receiving threatening messages. The person who introduced her to this world was Seun, who once told Hyen, "This person can solve any problem, for the right price." That person was Lee Deokmyeon. He looked harmless enough, but even street thugs didn't dare mess with him, because his family was ranked 4th on the national donor list. In this elite world, that ranking meant untouchable power. Despite always pretending to be poor, Deokmyeon was one of the top 20 wealthiest students. After school, Hyen borrowed 3 million won from him. But the rules were brutal. If she couldn't pay it back in a week, an extra 2 million won in interest would be added. Seeing the panic in Hyen's eyes, Deokmyeon offered a twisted alternative. Help him with something, and maybe the debt would vanish. But then Seun suddenly disappeared. Hyen couldn't reach her at all. Meanwhile, Deokmyeon had already set up his camera and was urging Hyen to come out of the dressing room. It turned out Deokmyeon had a bizarre obsession, photographing girls in lingerie for his private collection. Hyen, out of options, gave up her pride. She remembered her father's words, "Dignity doesn't feed you." She kept repeating that line in her mind as she posed, trying to endure the shame. "For 3 million won an hour, this isn't so bad," she lied to herself. She posed diligently, trying to finish quickly. But during the final outfit, Deokmyeon grabbed her wrist and whispered, "If you agree to go further, I'll give you another 5 million. Meanwhile, Hae-shik visited Hyen in the hospital. He held her hand tightly, guilt heavy in his chest. That night on the rooftop, they had argued. Hyen had hinted someone was harassing her, but she never said who. In frustration, he had left her alone, and now she was in a coma. Swearing to make it right, he promised himself he'd find the culprit. Later, he went to his father's study and accessed the school's surveillance footage. But everything from that night had been mysteriously erased. He remembered something Hyen had said and began to suspect Ryuso, the second daughter of the powerful Jupiter group. At that moment, Ryuso was with her fiancé of 5 years, a man nicknamed Too Much, because he constantly pressured her for sex. She had always refusing any form of intimacy before marriage. Suddenly, he received a phone call. He walked to a quiet corner to answer it. The voice on the line warned him that Baek Ji-na knew what had happened. That same night, Hyen had a nightmare. In it, she remembered Hyen giving her a necklace on the night of the incident. But the school's internal investigator had struck a deal with the administration to keep things quiet. Instead of turning the necklace over to police, it was still sitting in a locked video box. The next morning, a teacher returned to school to check on a colleague. Before she could finish speaking, she saw Baek Ji-na and rushed over, putting on a mask of concern. She told the other teachers to go ahead, claiming she'd stay behind to care for Ji-na. As soon as they were gone, her expression shifted. "I just came from the hospital," she said coldly. "The doctor said the fetus is a boy." That meant only one thing. This child would one day inherit the Hanmyeong group. The news hit Baek Ji-na like a freight train. Dizzy, she had to grab the railing to stay upright. Later, she begged Hyein to take her somewhere she wouldn't have to face the teacher. Hyein took her to a quiet conference room. She already had a suspicion about what was going on. Baek Ji-na misunderstood Hyein's intentions, thinking she came to comfort her only to later seize an opportunity to hold something over her. But Hyein wasn't having it. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a thick stack of cash. She tossed some of it on the table and flung the rest into the air. Now, having paid her debt, Hyein told Baek Ji-na, "We're even. Let me go." Then she added with unnerving calm, "The scariest kind of woman is one who has nothing left to lose. Like me right now." She contrasted herself with Baek Ji-na, strong on the surface, but fragile to the core. A hollow shell pretending to be in control. Something changed in Baek Ji-na after that. The next day, her attitude toward Hyein shifted noticeably. When Hyein walked into school, none of the girls gave her a hard time. Even the usual bullies left her alone. Haeshik, unaware of the recent developments, sat beside Hyein, determined to protect her, and also hoping to talk after school. But Hyein turned him down gently. Haeshik, frustrated but still hopeful, asked her again to help find the person who attacked Hyein. But she refused. Desperate, Haeshik threatened to tell his father that Hyein might have seen the attacker's face. That stopped her cold. Hyein knew how serious that would be. She couldn't understand Haeshik's motive. But he clarified, "I won't expose you. I won't hurt you. I just want the truth. I'll use my father's power to confirm whether the person I suspect is the real culprit." He then proposed something bizarre. "Let's pretend to be a couple." Just then, Hyein received a strange text. It was a quote from Damme. On the other side of campus, Baek Ji-na was trying to persuade Ryueseo not to marry Tae-di. "He's not worthy of you," she said. But Ryueseo didn't catch the meaning behind the words. Their conversation was interrupted by a shocking sight: Hyein and Seun together. They were visibly startled. Seun asked Hyein whether everything had been resolved, and if anything unusual had happened. Hyein shook her head silently, and the two walked away. Later that afternoon, during class, Hyein was clearly distracted. Seun turned around and scribbled a quick note on Hyein's notebook. "You okay?" That night, while doing homework, Hyein stumbled upon the note Seun had left at the department store the day she was lured into the photo trap. The handwriting was exactly the same, including the two little "huh." She sat frozen. How could someone as sweet as Seun do something so cruel? Hours earlier, Seun had visited Hyein in the hospital, after Haeshik had left. When Hyein's mother received a phone call and stepped out, Seun had said something peculiar. "It's obvious Haeshik doesn't know what Hyein has done. That's why he's acting this way." Her voice grew more animated the longer she talked. After leaving the hospital, Seun received a message from Damme. It was the video, the lingerie shoot. Elsewhere, a high school girl's family had gone bankrupt, and she'd been publicly removed from the school's scholarship list. Her former friends didn't console her. They mocked her. "You still have the nerve to come to school?" they sneered. They even dragged her grandmother and father into the gossip, calling them mentally ill and blaming them for her downfall. Who even let her out of the house? Seun couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed one girl by the hair, slammed her to the ground, and straddled her, slapping her across the face over and over. The more she hit, the more furious she became. She was about to go even further when, just as Seun was about to unleash more violence, Baek Ji-na stopped her cold. "That's enough," she said. Seun was stunned. After all these years of friendship, why would Ji-na side with those bullies? But she'd forgotten what she herself once said when they were younger: only people of the same level can truly be friends. The implication was clear. Things had changed. Their social status was no longer equal. Seun then brought up something from the past, an incident so significant that Jin-na should have spent a lifetime repaying her for it. From that day forward, Seun's feelings toward Jin-na turned to hatred. And though she tried to avoid her, their paths inevitably crossed. Jin-na, increasingly suspicious, warned Seun to stop whatever game she was playing with Hye-in. "If I catch any proof," she threatened, "I'll expose everything, including that incident." Seun had admitted she was the culprit, but only so she could get close to the heir of Han Min Group. Meanwhile, Hye-in finally confirmed that it was indeed Seun who had written the anonymous note. Before Hye-in could confront her, Seun admitted it herself. She had written the note. She had manipulated Deok-myung into taking those photos. Hye-in was stunned. Seun suspected the school leadership had only allowed Hye-in to transfer in exchange for her silence about what she had witnessed. But Hye-in explained, she just happened to pass by the scene of the fall. She never saw the attacker's face. Hearing this, Seun was elated. She wanted Hye-in to act as a witness and pin the blame on Baek Jin-na. Elsewhere, Hae-shik insisted that Hye-in attend Ryu Seo and Teddy's party with him. He had only one question for Baek Jin-na. Why does she hate Harin so much? That day, Harin had lured Baek Jin-na to the rooftop using a fake message about her father having an affair with a teacher. Unexpectedly, Jin-na actually showed up. Harin often fantasized about becoming rich, wearing designer clothes and riding in luxury cars, but Jin-na had no patience. She cut to the chase. "What do you want from me?" At the same time, Seun was continuing to manipulate Hye-in, calling Baek Jin-na dangerous and claiming she had always wanted to kill Harin. But Hye-in didn't believe Jin-na was the real culprit. She recalled that Jin-na hadn't even recognized her when they first met. Still, Seun didn't care about the truth. "Just say she pushed someone off the building," she said. "Or I'll upload the photo shoot video to the school forum." That evening after school, Hye-in walked past a banner posted by Harin's parents, asking for witnesses to come forward. The guilt hit her like a wave. She realized she had been trying to gain from someone's death. Tears of regret fell from her eyes. Baek Jin-na happened to pass by and told her, "Don't pity Harin. Just be careful of Seun." After hearing this, Hye-in called Hae-shik and agreed to fake a relationship to start investigating. The next day, the two of them went to the room where the photos had been taken. There, they found a large box labeled with various names and filled with memory cards. Meanwhile, Deok-myung had a seemingly cordial exchange with someone and then deleted all the inappropriate photos of the girls. That night, Hye-in searched through the memory cards and found the one labeled Harin. What she saw shocked her. She finally understood. No wonder everything spiraled out like this. Harin turned out to be even more detestable than the main villain. Upon discovering the footage of Harin and Teddy together, Hye-in couldn't help but wonder, who was Harin really? The next morning, Seun approached Hye-in again, using Deok-myung's photos as blackmail. Seun tried to force Hye-in to identify Baek Jin-na as the one who pushed Harin. But Hye-in hesitated. Doing so would violate the promise she made with the school administration. She also had a lingering doubt, so she took out the USB labeled with Harin's name. But Seun already knew what was on it. She claimed that Harin had been blackmailing Baek Jin-na that day. Seun laughed wildly, recalling how she had sent Harin intimate photos of her and Teddy. She had threatened to leak them to Hae-shik if Harin didn't follow her orders. In the end, Harin agreed to wait for Baek Jin-na on the rooftop in exchange for the video's deletion. Still, Hye-in had a strong feeling that Baek Jin-na wasn't the real culprit. Seun warned her, if she didn't accuse Baek Jin-na soon, she'd leak Hye-in's compromising photo. "Harin begged me to," she said coldly. That evening, Hae-shik took Hye-in to the party hosted by Ryu Seo and Teddy. There, Ryu Seo and Teddy appeared unusually affectionate. During the party, Harin asked Baek Jin-na if Ryu Seo's necklace was expensive. Jin-na replied that it wasn't something money could easily buy. There was a long waiting list. Whether it was the alcohol or rising tension, Hae-shik and Baek Jin-na got into a heated argument. Hae-shik accused her of benefiting from a system where only powerful families get protected. That's when Baek Jin-na realized the truth. Harin had been manipulating Hae-shik and even blackmailing her. She exposed Teddy and Harin's affair in front of Hae-shik and Ryu Seo. This scene erupted into chaos. Hae-shik and Teddy clashed, and Ryueseo was devastated. As it turns out, after receiving Seun's video, Harin pretended to cooperate. She also threatened Teddy that if he said anything, their family's engagement would be over. On the night of the rooftop incident, Baek Ji-na told Harin she already knew about her relationship with Teddy. But Harin insisted she was in love with Haeshik. Like the heroine of a twisted revenge plot, she confessed she despised the rich, especially Baek Ji-na. She hated how Ji-na was born into a life of privilege, while she was just trying to change her own fate by dating Haeshik. Why is that treated like a sin? She asked bitterly. What no one expected was that the real culprit was Ryueseo. After the party, Hayan brought Baek Ji-na home and showed her a bracelet and necklace set, exactly like the one Ryueseo wore. Harin had given it to her after the fall. It confirmed Ji-na wasn't the killer. Now, Hayan finally knew who was. That limited edition necklace had been a gift from Teddy to Ryueseo. On the rooftop that night, Ryueseo showed up instead of Teddy. She grabbed Harin by the hair and attacked. But Harin wasn't weak. She fought back, demanding why Teddy was even worth it. During the struggle, Ryueseo shoved her hard. Harin grabbed her necklace on the way down, and fell. Afterward, the person Hayan had seen that night was indeed Ryueseo. The next morning, Hayan received a final warning from Seun. Tonight at midnight is your last chance. Around the same time, a girl wearing the same shoes as Ryueseo entered the school administrator's office. That night, Teddy and Ryueseo made up. Meanwhile, Hayan went to confront Seun. She wanted to renegotiate now that she knew who truly caused Harin's fall. But Seun already knew. Still, she agreed to meet Hayan at the school in 5 minutes. Seun went to the rooftop first. After ending the call, she uploaded Hayan's photo. Suddenly, unknown person appear in front of Seun and push her from the building. When Hayan arrived, she couldn't reach Seun by phone. History repeats again, except this time, it was Seun who fell. Elsewhere, Haeshik waited by Harin's hospital bed, hoping she would wake up and explain everything. Just as he stepped out of the room, Harin's eyes fluttered open. She had survived. Season 1 ends here. So guys, who do you think pushed Seun off the building? Thank you for watching.